Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Apostate Aladdin. I make YouTube videos and I host live streams discussing Islam critically, among other related topics. I try to live stream every Wednesday, but it's been a while since I've actually stuck to doing it every single Wednesday. Unfortunately, my schedule is a bit all over the place sometimes, but I'm here today. I don't yet have an idea for what the live stream is going to be for. So if you would like to, give your input, ask me a question, contribute to the live stream, now would be your chance. Also, I do have a couple of videos that I could watch and react to right now. I just haven't watched them before or prepared for them. So maybe we'll do a poll, see what people think. Yeah, how's everybody doing? This is kind of an odd live stream for me because I'm usually a lot more prepared than I am right now. And there's a chance at the end of the live stream, if it's a total mess, I'll just unlist it or take it down. So this might be an exclusive. You might be watching a live stream for the first and last time. What do I want to share with you? Yeah, so a little bit of news. I will make an announcement about this soon to like the patrons and YouTube members and so on. For all those people, especially the ones who have access to the Discord server, this weekend we're going to be hosting a group call. Well, there's going to be a bunch of group calls, but one of them will be to discuss evolution, because I personally do not pay a lot of attention to that topic. It wasn't for me important or central in my journey out of faith. I loosely believe that it is a thing. I have no reason to not believe that evolution is real, but I struggle to understand, especially, how did life emerge from inorganic materials? That is the part that I'm stuck on a bit. So I decided I'll host a group call and have the people who are better read on the topic than I explain that to me and, answer questions and have a discussion like that. So if you would like to join that discussion, uh, links are in the description. Become a member and, join Discord, and I'll make sure that you get in before we have that discussion. What else is up? Yeah, so I am working on a video right now that I will be posting, hopefully, if all goes well, on Friday. I think it's going to be really funny. I enjoyed making it, and there will be a cameo, I suppose, by another a friend of a channel that I really, really enjoy his videos, Genetically Modified Skeptics. So just teasing that's going to be out this Friday. And also, if all goes well, I'll announce that when it's finalized on Saturday. I'm co-hosting a live stream on Genetically Modified Skeptics channel. So that'll be a lot of fun to celebrate his channel reaching 800,000 subscribers. So that's a little bit of news. What else? I also want to show you this. I may make a video on it someday. I found this. I can't remember if someone dropped it at my door or in my mailbox or something a long time ago. And it's intriguing. It's like a little bit of a comic book sort of aesthetic, right? And I was like, what is this about? That's interesting. I wonder who this is targeting. And quickly I realized it's some sort of like pamphlet, Christian pamphlet. Let's see, it's by Chick Publications. It doesn't say on it anything on the cover or the back that it has to do with Christianity, which I guess is their way of getting you to engage with it or read it before you realize what it is. But quickly you kind of pick up that it is about Christianity. And maybe I'll make a video on it, because it is essentially, I don't know if there's enough material to make a video. There we go. Camera's bugging. I don't know if there's enough material in here to make a video, but essentially the whole thing is just, guilt tripping and fear mongering. Why is my camera struggling to focus ever since I did this? All right, hopefully it's back. Yeah, so this whole thing is just fear mongering. Like, what if you die and then, you have to stand in front of God and explain yourself, and you're going to be so ashamed of yourself. You're going to be so scared. So you better get on it right now. That's what this whole thing boils down to. And I find that, I don't know, like, even if they have good intentions, the person who made this and, the person who delivered it, I find it a bit gross. It's funny that, these religions often they don't really have proof. So instead of saying, here is how you know that our religion is true and therefore it's good to follow it, it's just, be afraid, because what if it's true and then you're screwed? So that's, that's something right there. Maybe that'll be a video in the future. Um, let's see. Rose is asking, can we discuss contradictions in the Quran? I don't remember any off the top of my head right now, but I'm open to people, bringing up some, and we can look at them together right now. Where is the cat? Well, one of them is right here. He's just in a bit of a dark corner. Free Tag is asking, what sacrifice must we make for you to start your live streams an hour or so earlier? I will try. This is already an hour or two earlier than it usually is, but I'll try to do them even a bit earlier for those of you who are in time zone too different than mine. Lean says, honestly, they didn't even teach us evolution at school. So funny story about that. I also didn't really learn about evolution in school. So the way that I went to school, and I had to do like the British system. So I had to do the GCSEs essentially, or they're called IGCSEs. And so we had to do the same exams to a large extent as people all over the world and in the UK. So we had to be taught that evolution is a thing. But my biology teacher, I remember, he was a great teacher, but he was, a Muslim with a large beard. And he told us that we are not supposed to believe in, was it macro evolution? We're supposed to, as Muslims, we only believe in micro evolution or adaptation or something of the sort. So, yeah, we kind of vaguely knew what evolution was, but it was always taught to us that, just write what you got to write for the exam, but don't worry about that. Um, okay, so this is a good question, because I think the next video is going to be related to that, the one, after this Friday. The commenter is asking, I'm sorry, I'm struggling to read your name, Sion Yeminu. They're asking, do you feel like Christianity and Islam are two sides of the same coin, as in leaving one for another out of the pot into the fire? So I always get a version of that question, or maybe even as an objection, someone saying, so are you saying that Christianity and Islam are exactly the same, or they're like two sides of the same coin? Are you saying that Christianity is just as bad as Islam, or that Muslims today are just as, or Christians are just as hostile towards criticism or apostasy as Muslims? I don't think it's useful to make that one-to-one claim that they're like one-to-one comparison. They're exactly the same, because they're not. There are differences. Are they similar? In many ways, yes, they're very, very similar. When it comes to leaving one for the other, aside from, the potential harm to your own mental health and from the community around you being still pretty high in both of them, depending on, your exact community, they're both exactly the same in terms of how much proof they offer, which is none. Because if they offered any proof that I personally would consider credible, then I would have believed in them. So both of them are equally proved, which is not at all. So leaving one for another, to me, doesn't make sense, because if you're someone who values, evidence and proof, and if you left one religion for that reason, it doesn't make sense to join the other one without having a replacement for, or without fulfilling that criteria. But for some people, it's for other reasons. It's not because there is evidence, or it's not because the religion is provable. Either they had a certain experience, or they connect with it more, or the community, they like that community more than the other one. I don't know. People's reasons differ. I would never join a religion unless I am convinced that it is true, and this, hasn't really happened yet. Let's see. So a couple people here are asking, Kai and Enigma are asking about the mental gymnastics that believers do to explain destiny and free will so that they don't contradict each other. It is a contradiction, is what they're saying. I can't speak for all of them right now, but off the top of my head, I remember asking that question from a very young age. If God knows what will happen. And in many narrations in Islam, he doesn't just know, he determines what will happen. Nothing happens without his permission. He wrote it before we existed. So if God determines or even just knows what will happen, can we still have free will? And there's all sorts of vague answers, or like the hard to grasp answers, like God exists outside space and time, so to him time isn't linear, so everything already happened and hasn't happened yet from God's perspective. Therefore, essentially, long story short, God is capable of making a paradox happen, or God is capable of making this seemingly paradoxical concept real, which is that God knows what will happen, but he doesn't control it. But then the question becomes, well, can you do something that surprises God? Like if God knew that you would, end up a disbeliever, can you surprise God and not be a disbeliever? And no one gives me a straight answer to that. Usually the answer is, well, you never know. Like you could convert before you die. That happens. I'm like, that's not the question. If you are destined to be a disbeliever, like, people in religious stories like Musa and Al-Khidr and that child that they unalived because God knew that he would die a disbeliever, or Al-Khidr knew that he would die a disbeliever. Did that child have a choice? Could the child have not been a disbeliever? I don't see any way to solve this issue, but believers somehow just assert that God is capable of, knowing the future without actually affecting it, and it's still all your fault or all your responsibility. Okay, LT says, is it normal to feel guilty after leaving faith? Yes, not just this one religion. It is a fairly normal and expected experience. For a bunch of reasons, people feel guilty after leaving the faith. So, yeah, we could talk about that further, but it is normal. Kaizen says, ever considered the Quran/Islam could be the masterpiece of the devil? So, that is a sentiment that I get usually from theists, specifically Christians, who assert that there's some link or there's some evidence that Muhammad is satanic, or that the Quran is satanic, or Islam is satanic, or like it's evil. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I don't believe in Christianity. I don't believe in the devil. I don't even know what evil is, because evil is just what we classify things we don't like as, or bad things as. But I don't think that Islam is all evil, or that being a believer in Islam makes you evil. But can faith and belief and ideology cause good people to do bad things? Yes. Does Islam cause a lot of good people who otherwise wouldn't have done a bad thing to do a bad thing? Yes. But is it like a masterpiece of the devil? No, that's just religious lingo again, and black and white thinking. The devil doesn't exist. Aniq says, how do you wrap your head around the fact that the vast majority of people believe they were born into the one true religion? I just accept it, I guess. Acceptance. You just don't, I don't know, don't try to make sense of it. It's a bias that is within all of us, because if we didn't think that what we grew up with and what we know is true and right and good, then we would spend a lot of our lives uncertain about what to do. So having that certainty, whether it is deserved or not, and having that confidence kind of helps move us forward and not get too stuck on revising what we believe and what we think. But there should be a degree of that we do anyway. Yeah, that's just inherent bias in humans. Let's see, what's another question? Aside from religion, KS asks, are you spiritual? I don't exactly know what that means. Spirituality means different things to different people. Um, if like you think, it always makes me think of the spirit, the soul. Do I believe in the soul, in the spirit, in some entity that is not my physical body, that is also me, or that is the essence of me? No, I don't believe in that. I believe consciousness to some extent is the continuation of my experience and the memories that I hold and my thoughts and so on. So I don't believe in the spirit or the soul. But to some people, what they mean by spirituality is just being in touch with your emotions and your state of mind and being grounded and doing things that benefit your thinking and your feeling so that your spirit, in quotes, your spirit is good, or that it is nurtured. In that sense, I do believe in that, but that's not something to believe in necessarily. That's just practical. If you do things that take care of yourself and your thoughts and your psyche, then you will prosper. I don't know if that counts as spirituality, but yeah, I relate to that. Uh, Baran says, "What do you think about deistic God? Can you explain a little bit more what you mean by the deistic God? Then I'll tell you what I think about it." Sion is asking, when you read the Quran and contextualize it using the Hadith, does Muhammad's prophecies, do they feel like a convenient workaround for his personal roadblocks? I also get the same vibe from the Bible too. I Sometimes, yes, there are situations that feel extremely convenient, like when someone asks him a question and then he got the revelation and God gave him the answer. But from a believer's perspective, there's nothing illogical or suspicious about God, answering Muhammad's questions or the questions of the people around Muhammad conveniently when they are asked. In the context of a religion that is revealed for a certain people progressively, as in following their story closely, then that makes sense. The whole premise is a bit iffy to me, because if God is really all that concerned with a group of people to answer all their questions, to be a template for the rest of humanity, it's not the most representative group of people. I don't know if one group of people would be representative enough for all of humanity at all. But yeah, there are certain things that seem like convenient revelation, or that they're self-serving. Like there's a verse about how people shouldn't loiter at the prophet's house because that hurts him. Why couldn't he just say, "Hey guys, get the heck out. I want to go to sleep," Instead, he had to get Allah to say that on his behalf. But if this whole plot is true and Allah really is real, then Allah would have had to write in the Quran, in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, the preserved tablet, before creating space and time, before the Big Bang, if that's a thing, before anything, he wrote the verse about how people shouldn't loiter at the Prophet's place. Because someday in the future, well, once time starts, the Prophet will be hurt by people loitering at his place, and then the verse will be revealed. Like, it just seems so far-fetched to me. So the simpler explanation is that, yes, he either thought that he was getting revelation that was convenient for the moment, or he explicitly made it up. I don't know. I wasn't there. Um, Mir Jalal asks, what is your opinion on the fight between Shia and Sunni on succession of the Prophet? Do you think Shias have a point? To be honest with you, I haven't paid that much attention to what Shias say, because growing up, I was just told, yeah, that's another sect of Islam, and they're just wrong. Like, don't worry about it. They're wrong. So I never really looked into it. And then when I left Islam and I focused all my energy on like learning, my logic, my rationale was this at the time. When I was before leaving Islam, I was trying to prove it, to just once and for all find the proof. I wouldn't go searching in Shia sources because I thought the Sunnis are the majority, right? And there's more subsects than just Sunni or Shia, but Sunnis loosely are the majority. So if Islam is true, it seems very far-fetched to me that the people who got it right would be the minority. Then Allah utterly failed on every level. He failed to convey his message through all these prophets over the years, and then in his final revelation, he failed so much that the people who got it right are the minority yet again. So I assumed, okay, if this plot is true, then it's most likely to be the Sunnis that got it right. So then I looked into that even more, because that's what I grew up with too. But then since then, I haven't looked that much into the Shia claims. But yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm not exactly answering the question, because like I said, I don't have that much knowledge on the Shia's claims about Ali and all that kind of stuff. I just think it's funny that the moment the guy died, the moment Muhammad died, people already split. even like before his death, people are already split and they started fighting. And it makes me wonder if the people around him truly believed what he was saying, or if it was just, he was their sort of, oh boy, maybe this is going to get spicy if I make it political, but similar to how there are a lot of people around, the president of a certain uh, United States country, there are a lot of people around him who think of him as some kind of, senile guy who blurts stuff out of his mouth that he doesn't even understand, but he's convenient for them. And I wonder if people thought similarly of Muhammad at some point, that yeah, he's a mascot for the religion. He's a figure that people rally behind, and when Omar has ideas that he really wants to implement in Islam, sometimes Muhammad gets convenient revelation, saying the same thing. So I wonder if people around him just saw him as either necessary or convenient to rally behind. And then once he died, they started fighting over who gets to rule next. Yeah, a bit of a tangent here. Uh, Abu Bakr was just JD Vance, Enigma says. Yeah. Dil is here says, or Dai is here says, what do you think about the Naskh principle? I was never a Muslim, but it seems like a cop-out so they could say, no, it's not a contradiction because Allah changes his mind. I think what you mean by that is like the abrogation, where if something contradicts something else, Muslims say, well, the ruling changed, like during the time of Muhammad. So like Allah abrogated the previous verse or the previous ruling with this new one, which is not that dissimilar from what Christians do on a much larger scale with the Old Testament and the New Testament. But yeah, it does feel like a cop out because, again, if Allah pays so close attention to this one tribe, so that he follows up with Muhammad and his wives and his life and everything, and gives him rulings that apply to only him, and then changes his mind about certain things because as the story goes, or as the apologetics go, it was for that time for those people. Even if I can see that that did happen, where has Allah been for 1400 years? Like, is it really that important to give these micro updates to this one family or this one guy? But ever since, the world has changed and there are things that Muhammad has not conceived of, and there's no update, there's no abrogation of all these things that are, where's the abrogation of slavery? That never happened. So I think it's obviously a cop out. As a Muslim, I didn't really hear much about it because we don't typically talk about things that could bring us doubt. It's kind of shielded away from it. But as soon as I saw it for what it is, I just can't unsee it. Let's see. There's still a bunch of questions, so keep them coming. There's also, so I'll tell you a couple of videos and maybe we'll watch one of them together. There's Asim al-Hakim. Let me just show you on the screen and then you can decide with me. There is Zakir Naik's Why Killing a Lizard is Encouraged in Islam. There's that one. What's next? There's Asim al-Hakim's video titled, one second. I'm not advertising his sessions. It's just the first screen. Titled, Wife Must Not Argue at All with Husband. Oh, you can't even see this. My bad. Wife must not at all argue with husband and keep quiet during fights. There's that. And there's Yaqeen Institute, everyone's favorite apologetics institute, video titled The Dark Truth About Secularism. What do you guys think? Do any of these seem interesting? This commenter says, Christianity has a new covenant with God. Therefore, the Jewish law is fulfilled. You should learn the basics of Christianity and not just turbo American Protestant memes. It's funny that even the Christians have like the equivalent of a Shia Sunni beef. They have the Protestants and the Catholics and everyone else too, but these two especially. That still doesn't make sense to me. I've heard that before, that the Jewish law was fulfilled and therefore there's a new deal with God. But why did God make a shitty first deal to begin with, and killed a bunch of people. And also there's a lot of reprehensible stuff in the New Testament too, but he was a major asshole in the Old Testament. Like, how come God just had I don't know, like, growth, I suppose, in his personality, and then change, which would be good, if the story is that God is a flawed being. But if God is perfect, then you know I don't buy it. Good question. Miraj asks, why are there so many Christians in ex-Muslim spaces? After I post the next video on Friday, I think the one after is going to be about this topic, about the Christians in ex-Muslim spaces. I'll tell you, I'll give you briefly a few reasons why that might be the case. Um, in in the beginning, in the beginning, in the beginning, uh, if in the beginning of, like, YouTube and the internet and stuff, there were people who were criticizing Islam, in forums, in text-based forums, and Quora and stuff like that. That was a little bit before my time, um, but that has always been a thing. And then when it came to YouTube, there were people who started criticizing Islam on YouTube as well. But it was kind of slow to get there, because the majority of Muslims who live in majority Muslim areas are not even aware of the concept of challenging a religion or criticizing it or voicing their criticism out loud. And the ones who do usually get a lot of backlash for it, that the Muslim world has not caught up to the let's say the Christian world and the secular world in terms of criticizing religion. So when it first started, there weren't that many people doing it, and the ones that were doing it, are facing a lot of hate. And Christians got on board with the Islam criticism stuff because a lot of them either believe that, like, someone had mentioned earlier, Islam is a demonic religion, or that it's an evil religion, or it's explicitly, the work of the devil to take people away from Christianity, so they want to fight it. And there are people who think it's another religion that is mistaken about God, and we must help them, find the one true religion. And there are people who think that, because Muslims and Christians always have this beef, that uh, they Muslims always use Christianity as an example, and, like, they always criticize Christianity, and they think that criticizing the Trinity or Christianity proves Islam, because they think that these are the two major religions in the world, because screw polytheism and all these other esoteric things. The two major Abrahamic religions, if one is false, then the other must be true. That's how both sides feel about it sometimes. So there are a lot of Christians who want to bring down Islam to prop up Christianity, or uh, to reassure themselves that that religion is especially false and especially bad, so mine must be good or true. Um, and sometimes, again, like, it's not all, like, bad reasons. Some genuinely believe, and if what they believe is true, that Jesus is real and hell is real and heaven is real. They want to save people and so on. So they often think of us as lost souls that, good, you took the first step, you left Islam, now come find the truth, come find Jesus. And it could get pretty annoying. It could get predatory, because someone who doesn't, who just got out of a religion is trying to figure out their life. You should not be preying on them and, shuttling them into a different religion with a lot of the same problems. And, like I said, just as unproven as the first one. So yeah, it keeps happening. And I wanna make a video addressing those people, because, often they come here with, like, the repetition of the things that they wanna say and not really listen to what we're trying to say. And the moment that I stray away from the script that they want me to read, not literally, but, metaphorically, I get a lot of hate and, like, backlash, and which is fine. And, like, I still have a platform, I'm not worried about it. But it's so funny to me that the moment that I make a joke about Christianity, or I criticize it in any way, I get a lot of people saying, "Why do you hate us so much? Why do you hate Jesus? Your heart is so full of hate," and so on and so forth. When they weren't saying any of that stuff, when I was making even a lot raunchier and a lot more blasphemous jokes about Islam. So maybe that will help them realize, how a Muslim might feel when they read a Christian's comments that are, blatantly disrespectful to the Muslim, and their feelings. So, yeah. Um, Aswa says, have you looked deeply into Surah 3, verse 7 about the Quran admitting its own ambiguous verses? I can't quote it off the top of my head right now, but it's something about how some verses are clear and some are ambiguous. I tried to look into it, but a lot of this stuff just drives me insane. The amount of fan wanking that you'll find in these explanations, it's like grasping at straws to try to make it make sense, to the point that at some point I stop and I'm like, why am I even doing this to myself? Like, why do I care how they justify it when it's obviously like, it's not like the author or authors had a coherent idea about the entire religion that they kept consistent. There's a lot of this ambiguity in Islam all the time. So even when it comes to this verse about ambiguity, I remember someone saying, well, the ambiguity is good because it means that you spend more time thinking about it and therefore you brings you closer to God. Or that, no, everything is clear, but the ambiguity is about the people who, their hearts are not set right, or something or another. Long story short, no, at some point I stopped caring about how they make sense of it, because it's obvious when the goal is to make sense of something, regardless of how you get there, you'll have multiple scholars, or the same scholar quoting multiple opinions that are not the same. And they're just like, just take any one of these. It doesn't matter. Just, as long as you get there, as long as you think that there's nothing wrong with the Quran, then you're fine. Doesn't matter which route you take. So if the methodology is flawed, then why do I want to follow it? Let's see. So which one of the videos, maybe we'll quickly watch the wife must not argue with husband one, though. That might piss me off, but we'll do the secularism one next time because it's a bit longer. Let's watch this real quick, and then I'll get back to the questions. Can you see the video?
Husband during reply back to her husband during our wife supposed to reply back to her husband during arguments? Or is she supposed to talk in a respectful manner even when she's angry? First of all, marriage is not based on calculations, 1 + 1 = 2. It is a combination of feelings, emotions, circumstances, and traumas and previous experiences and future experiences and the likes. Hence, it's not one size that fits all.
This might be the first time I actually don't disagree with this guy on something, but let's see where he takes it.
And it would be illogical to ask a woman to be as submissive as a slave to her husband. Because as we see, and I encounter this a lot in counseling sessions, men are not perfect, infallible individuals. They have their flaws, they have their shortcomings. So why would you expect your wife to be someone who's perfect when you're not? It doesn't make any sense. And besides, arguments, fights, bickering, sometimes they're needed in a marriage as we need salt and pepper and spices. So,
I mean, okay, here I disagree slightly. I don't think like bickering and fights are needed for a marriage. I think communication is needed for a marriage. And when people disagree, there are, it's not always going to, like you said, people are not perfect. It's not always going to be a civil conversation, but that is the goal. I don't think that fighting is needed. Communication is needed. And if it happens that you have a bit of friction in that process of communication, then you need to find a better way to communicate, both of you, depending on where the problem lies. But you need to change your approach. So yeah, a bit of disagreement there.
We can't ask a woman to suppress her feelings and to hold back and not to sometimes explode or express her emotions when her husband is frequently doing the same mistake and not fulfilling her rights. Having said that, we at the same time do not encourage women to be rebellious.
There we go. I'm like, this is all sounding too reasonable so far. Where is it going to go off the rails?
Or disrespectful. because respect between the spouses, from the wife and from the husband, is an essential element of a successful marriage. The moment respect is absent, then inevitably separation and divorce will take place sooner or later.
It's like he's sandwiching like the bad opinion in between two seemingly reasonable opinions. Respect goes both ways. Yes, respect is important. I agree with you. But then he's like, you don't want the women to get too rebellious, though. like there we go. He never says we don't want the men to get too rebellious. So if the woman is a little rebellious, that's okay. And also, doesn't rebellious imply that like she is in the position of submission because she's rebelling against something? Like you don't rebel against your coworker. Like if you're at work, you don't rebel against your coworker. Maybe you rebel against the company or your boss or something, because they love these analogies of like hierarchy. You don't rebel against someone that you're in the same level as. So he's saying, like, he says something on the opposite. He says women shouldn't be slaves to their husband, but also she shouldn't be too rebellious. What do you mean?
We can't live with people that don't respect us. Yes, I can tolerate one incident, couple of incidents here and there. But when this is a consistent behavior of disrespecting, being ungrateful, nagging and complaining and criticizing 24/7, this is not a life.
He made up an entire villain woman, which is the archetype here. She nags, she complains, she criticizes, she disrespects, she rebels. This is like the Islamic incel idea of a woman. This reminds me of how in the hadiths and so on, when there be a story about how the prophets of Muhammad would argue amongst themselves, or like they'd be at odds with each other, there'd be commentary on how like, oh, women gonna be jealous. Well, how about you don't marry a football team of women, and then they won't be jealous of each other? How about you actually treat one woman with respect instead of sharing your time among 11 or however many? But yeah, they always characterize women as like naggy, disrespectful, criticizing all the time. He made up an entire archetype, and he doesn't even know who the woman is. Like, he started this talk by saying that we can't say one thing because everyone is different. And then he's like, well, just don't become that naggy woman.
And when a man is so controlling that the woman cannot breathe, you don't go to your family, you don't see your friends, nobody comes to our home, you're not allowed to go out, you're not allowed to have any communication on the phone, no social media. What is this? It's your mistake.
So he's almost onto something good. Again, sandwiched in a bit of reasonable stuff. But he said if the man is too controlling, so you want him to be a bit controlling and you want her to be not too rebellious. No, the man should not be controlling. The woman should not be controlling. You shouldn't be controlling your partner. You should find a person that you mesh well with, not so that you can control each other.
Accepting him to treat you like this, then don't complain. But life is not going to go on. It's a matter of time before you burst and explode. And then the inevitable is going to happen.
Wait, who's going to burst and explode?
But life is not going him to treat, then what is this? To have any communication on the phone, no social media. What is this? It's your mistake accepting him to treat you like this.
Well, hold up. I almost missed that. It's your mistake accepting him to treat you like this. He's talking about a hypothetical where a woman is not allowed to see her friends. She's locked at home. She can't use the phone. She can't use social media. It's your mistake for accepting him to treat you like this. Sorry, guys, I have to cuss. Fuck off. Oh my God. I did not see that coming at all. Like, yeah. Again, sandwiching the terrible opinion with a bunch of things that sound somewhat reasonable. So this beaten woman, this controlled woman, it's her mistake that she accepted being with that husband. Okay, it would be nice if the sheikh kept up the initial energy, which is, everyone's different. You should not treat your wife like a slave. You should not control your wife. If he just been consistent with that, but he can't, because the religion is the source of that control. Like الرجال قوامون على النساء, men are dominant over women, or as some people like to say, caretakers over women, again implying a hierarchy. So how are you going to preach that they're equal, but then at the same breath also read a verse that says something else? Holy crap. And again, Sheikh, if a woman is handed off from her father's house to her husband's house, and the husband is a controlling piece of shit, it's her fault that she's accepting that? How?
Then don't complain.
Yeah, don't complain. You brought this upon yourself by accepting. What is she supposed to do? There's a guidebook that tells the man that he can beat you if he fears your disobedience, but it's your fault. Yeah, like Jensen is saying, you shouldn't accept controlling behavior, but don't nag either. Don't rebel, but don't accept it. What the fuck do you want people to do? Like, he just wants to blame the woman by any means necessary.
But life is not going to go on. It's a matter of time before you burst and explode. And then the inevitable is going to happen. So respect is essential.
It's a matter of time when your husband is abusing you that you're going to burst and explode. And the inevitable, what is the inevitable? I don't understand. I think he's saying that like divorce is the inevitable, because he was talking about that earlier, separation and divorce, and that is the inevitable. Like, that is the problem here. Oh, we don't want to get to the point of divorce. Like, that is the issue. It's not everything that happened to lead to that.
But even in the household of the Prophet himself, ﷺ, sometimes there were arguments and bickering.
Again, it's bickering puts a negative connotation on it. What does bickering even mean? Okay, let's pause for a second. I'll read the super chat and then I'll look up what bickering means. Georgia says, thank you, by the way, Georgia, for the super chat. They say, thanks for being a bright light in the consistent darkness. Also, glad you're speaking up for women and the injustice they face in Islam, especially. Thank you, Georgia. I appreciate that. Let's see. What does bickering mean? Bickering means to argue about petty and trivial matters. And so it has a negative connotation to it. So it's already sort of dismissive of the reason they're having an argument, and it's just, he's labeling it as bickering.
Sometimes there were disputes, and the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were not satisfied for one reason or the other.
One reason or the other, namely that the guy married a soccer team of women. That is the main reason that they're not satisfied.
Definitely, it's not something from the Prophet's side.
I did not see it coming. Definitely not the Prophet's fault. He married 11 women and one slave, but it's not his fault. It's the woman's fault. He didn't do anything wrong, guys. The Sheikh wasn't there, but he knows, the one thing that he knows for a fact is that Muhammad did nothing wrong. That's funny.
It's from theirs. But regardless,
it's from theirs, but regardless,
issue did exist, and there were disputes and things that would cause friction in the marriage. How the Prophet dealt with it? With respect and the care and love, and Allah knows best.
Right. Yeah, like the time Aisha, I talked about this in the previous live stream, I think, like the time Aisha followed Muhammad when he suspiciously went to the graveyard in the middle of the night, and then he followed her back, they ran back, and then he hit her on the chest, and he says, why are you following me? That's his wholesome way of handling bickering and marital disputes. Anyway, that is stupid. That is stupid. I don't like to insult people, but this sheikh is stupid. And again, I don't know whose fault it is that he got to this point of stupidity, but I hope that we all have, someone or something that gets us to think critically before we go that far. Because this is the result of brainwashing, to be honest. I can't say anything else. Here's another interesting video, how Einstein proved Islam is the truth. What do you guys think, guys and gals? Should we watch that together? Let's read a couple of comments first, and then we'll get to the if people want to watch that. Einstein proves Islam. This one says, celebrity sheikhs, what do you expect? I disagree, to be honest, because this isn't just a celebrity sheikh problem. Like if you go to your, garden variety, locally sourced sheikh, he would still have similar, if not worse, opinions. And he'd be a lot less PC about them because he doesn't have to go on TV about it, or on YouTube. Did he even answer the question? That is a good point. Sorry, I kind of got distracted here. How should a wife talk to her husband when he's angry and or they have an argument? Not rebel too much. She needs to respect him because respect goes both ways, but it's her job to respect him. What else? And if he is too controlling and if he is restrictive and treating her like a slave, it's her fault because she's accepting that. Does that answer the question? Let's see. Okay, this is one example of like the coping that I sometimes see to try to make sense of the religion. Nisa does not always mean women, this commenter says. It means those who have nothing or neglected, hence why rijal spend on them, meaning men spend on them. Hence why Nisa is conflated with orphans. No, Nisa means women. Bro, what are you talking about? You don't even, I'm sorry, but I don't think you know Arabic to any extent. Nisa means women. There's a whole surah called An-Nisa. It does not mean the what? The neglected. What does that mean? Like I think the commenter means well, and they're trying to make it make sense, but at some point you're stretching your brain so thin that it's hard to keep thoughts in. Don't do that to yourself. Do not do that to yourself. Nisa means women. Don't change the meaning of the word. Yeah, no matter what religion we talk about, women often get the worst end of the stick, unfortunately. Okay, let's watch this video where Einstein proves Islam. Let's put it on the screen. I did not watch this before. It's in my watch later list, which is hundreds of videos long. So let's see what we'll find. Why is my streaming setup so slow today? Sorry, guys, give me a second. Going through the ads first. Okay, there we go. This is how Einstein proved Islam.
This is how Einstein proved Islam is the truth. This whole thing actually starts with you. You see, for you to be here, you needed parents, and they needed parents, and so on. So you are dependent, since your existence depends on something else to cause it. In fact, everything in this universe is dependent, since everything had a cause. But
Wait. Okay. Again, I've never seen this before, so bear with me as we go through this. I have a feeling this is going to be the dependent. What was it? The kalam argument, that contingency argument. So everything needs something to exist, and blah, so on and so forth. But we'll go through it. It's just funny that this example that he shows on screen for comical effect, guys, because you want to see how like religion and culture perpetuate abuse. This example that's on screen for fun. The cause is what you did when you should have been studying. You're watching videos or something on your phone. Effect, your mom beats you and robs your sorry ass. The robbing part, doesn't happen in real life usually, but your mom beats you. That's funny. That is just so funny. Ha ha ha, guys. Like, this is how funny abuse is in Muslim communities, that it's just an aside. It's a joke. But let's listen to him.
I'll expand on that point later. In today's video, we'll be diving into the maths, science, and history, unraveling the mystery that all started with a Big Bang. Or maybe
Wait, so they do accept the Big Bang now?
it didn't. Really, it doesn't matter what you believe, since we always end up with the same dilemma. No matter how far back we go, we'll never reach a beginning point, and this is because of one of the universe's most fundamental laws, the conservation of mass and energy. I'll keep it short and
Okay, so we do believe in science.
simple. In 1905, an unknown German scientist by the name of Albert Einstein published his theory of relativity, which included what is now the most famous equation in the world, E equals mc squared, which put simply means that mass and energy are the same thing, and that the universe has a constant sum of mass and energy at any time.
Does that mean that mass and energy are the same thing? Again, I'm no scientist. I didn't prepare for this video. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that means that mass and energy are the same thing, but maybe that's a summary of, maybe that's essentially true. I don't know.
It's been empirically proven that mass and therefore energy cannot be created or destroyed. In layman's terms, something cannot come from nothing. You cannot deny this law exists within our universe. So then the question arises, if mass and energy can't be created, how did it end up in our universe in the first place?
We don't know.
Let's imagine the universe and its entire timeline. It's an isolated system, which basically means that nothing goes in and nothing comes out. So let's draw a box around it to signify that. If mass or energy can't be created within the box because of the laws of the universe, then it had to be created by something which simply isn't limited by such laws.
But wait, why the had to? I'm not following that part. Also, like the creator could benefit from slowing it down a little bit, because if you're disseminating so much information immediately, people are not actually following. You just seem like you know what you're talking about. So slow it down a little bit. They're saying something outside of this box of space and time would have had to create it, but you just said not created or destroyed. What if it was just always there? I don't understand how they always skip that. And also, at the end of this entire video, we'll still ask the same question. Let's say we concede that there needed to be a creator. Let's just skip to that part. Let's say there is a creator. How do we know it is yours? Because the same pitch is given by every theist who wants to use that pitch to say that their religion is true. But let's see if there's anything else that they'll add.
In other words, unlimited. And this something also has to be outside of the box and exist without it. Put simply, it has to be independent of the system. Otherwise, it will be put in the dimensions of time and space, which we already determined it can't be limited to. And lastly, there can only be one of these entities. If there were two of them, they'd become limitations of each other. Imagine there was two of them, and one wanted it to be sunny and the other wanted it to be snowy. Neither has power over the other, so neither of them get their way. Suddenly, these two beings that were meant to be unlimited have limited each other.
See, I always hear that like there can't be more than one God because they'd be at conflict. But simultaneously, like, polytheism is stupid because there has to be one God. But what about polytheism with a tiered sort of God structure where you have demigods and gods? Oh, that's also impossible. No. But Islam is essentially that. Like, it's mutated from polytheism to become a monotheism, but it retains the same, some of the same ideas, like an angel of death, an angel of rain, and so on and so forth. These angels are demigods. Can they, fight with each other? Apparently not. So how come polytheism can't exist where you have multiple gods that don't have conflict with each other? Again, this is the whole thing of like, contingency, therefore monotheism, therefore my religion.
Something is the creator of the universe, and throughout history, humans have had many ideas of who or what this might be. So to figure out which religion is correct, all we need to do is compare it against our criteria, to see which faiths are compatible to what we can observe in the universe.
No, that's not how it works, though. That's not how it works. You can't just say, because of deduction, I think that monotheism is the best, which again, it's a philosophical disagreement, a philosophical debate. People don't actually have proof that it's one way or the other. And then because Christianity is not monotheistic enough, therefore it's mine. Like, no. You don't do this by process of elimination, because at no point so far have we said that the contingent God must or should or will communicate with its creation in any way. So no, we don't just look at the religions that exist, or the popular ones, and we say, well, it must be one of these, and I don't like this one, and I don't like that one, then it must be this one. No, how do you prove your religion? You don't work backwards from that one of these is true.
Also, I only mentioned the 5 major world religions here, otherwise this video would be an hour long. We'll start off with Christianity.
But why not, though? Like, why is the length of the video more important than actually examining every single religion on earth? You can't just conveniently, if you're actually being thorough with this method, you can't conveniently skip over a bunch of religions because the video would be too long.
I'm gonna go off topic for a second, but I'm sorry. Do you really believe God got hungry? No, but for real, next thing you...
Wait, what is this? Oh, this is about Christianity? Bro, like, do you really believe God laughs, or God gets angry and his throne shakes? Shake it like a salt shaker. Like, do you believe that? That's in Islam. So if the criteria is, oh my God, this is so funny, God wouldn't do that, then Islam's not true. Khalas, we're done. Why are we even watching this? Islam's not true. Allah has done a bunch of silly things before. Allah has 2 shins, two right hands, I think, and he has shins, and he has a bunch of these odd body parts. That is funny. Therefore, Islam is not true. Same logic. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about in Christianity, and I don't think Christianity is true, but I just think it's silly.
You're gonna be telling me is that God was thinking, oh mate, I'm a bit peckish, I might run to the corner shop for a cheeky Maltese.
No, what Islam is telling me is that, oh mate, I'm a bit bored. I'm a bit bored, and I want people to worship me, but also I don't want them to worship me. It's for them. It's not for me. But I really want them to worship me, and I want to create them with free will, so that some of them will not worship me, but then I'll get really angry about it. Really, really mad, bro. Like mad, bro. You see how silly your religion sounds when you present it that way? Huh? Indeed.
Okay, but let's get serious again. In the Bible, Matthew 24:36, Jesus says, "No one knows about..."
Okay, impossible for a Muslim to try to prove Islam without bringing Christianity into it.
"that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." We can take away three things from this. Firstly, Jesus was on earth when he said this, which puts him in the box and makes him dependent. Never mind the fact that he was born from a woman, so he definitely is dependent.
Let's
And
skip
there's
the
no way
Christianity
about
part
it.
because I don't
Secondly,
care.
Jesus says two different minds, knowing, etc. Hence, they're limited. Among all the deities, none of Hinduism, not singular. For those reasons, Christianity simply can't be true. Moving on to Hinduism. It fails the first condition since many of the gods are dependent upon each other. And among all the deities, none of them are really considered to be all-powerful, all-knowing.
Again, you don't work backwards from looking at the religions that exist and say, well, this one is not, to my liking, and this one is not to my liking. How do we independently forget all the religions, forget every single religion? How do we get to Islam?
Etc. Hence, they're limited. They're also polytheists, which makes them fail the third condition. Buddhism doesn't believe in any kind of God at all, which disqualifies it as a true religion since we concluded God must exist due to the conservation laws.
Again, I'm no expert on Judaism, but we never concluded that God must exist. You essentially made the argument that an initial cause must exist. Calling it God and assigning some kind of will to it and intention and communication with its, creation and all that kind of stuff never happened.
Leaving Judaism and Islam, both believe in one God that's unlimited, independent, and singular, so they both fit within the three conditions.
Also, remember that in the Islamic narrative, it's the same God, right? It's Allah who created Adam and then revealed the Abrahamic religions and a bunch of religions that are since dead. A bunch of revelations that we've never heard of, a bunch of prophets that we don't have like books or records of or anything except from these three religions talking about them. And somehow Allah allowed every single one of these revelations to get lost or corrupted and so on and so forth, only for Islam to be the final revision. Why couldn't he get it right from the first place? Like, again, this content creator will be laughing at Christianity making a similar claim that, yeah, well, it's the same God and then it got corrupted and then so on and so forth. So you're telling me God is incompetent? Like, you tell me God gets hungry and buys Maltesers? You're telling me Allah is incompetent? He couldn't just reveal the same religion and stick to it? Also, this is something that someone brought to my attention recently. I haven't thought too deeply about it, to be honest, but Islam makes it seem that like Allah revealed the Injil and like he revealed books to Christians that like their prophets wrote down or that their prophets came with those books. But that's not what happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Christianity, it's divinely inspired writings. It's not Jesus that wrote them down. These are writings that were written after Jesus died. So Islam kind of got it wrong. Like, these books were not revealed by the prophets or by God the way that, we think of Islam. But yeah, this whole plot in Islam is that God revealed a bunch of religions, they got corrupted, and then he finally got it right.
So how do we determine which of the two is correct? We find our answer within their disagreements. The greatest difference between the two religions is the acceptance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a prophet. So it stands to reason that if we can prove Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a prophet, then Islam is the truth. So how do we figure
I mean, I disagree with how we got here, but let's keep watching.
out if he was a prophet or not? Well, simple. Through his prophecies.
Oh my fucking God. Okay, let me ask you this. Someone who lived around because I hate the prophecy stuff. Forget the prophecy. Someone who lived around Muhammad at the time, how could they know if he's a prophet? Well, if he says, well, my prophecies are going to come true in, I don't know how long, but roughly, 1400 years or a few hundred years, what good does that do for the person who lives around Muhammad? Like, how do we prove that he was a prophet right now? If Muhammad was right in front of me right now, don't say, well, in 1400 years, he'll be proven right. Right now, what proves that Muhammad is a prophet?
The Quran was the greatest miracle any prophet received, and in the Quran it describes...
the Quran is a miracle. Maybe this is a bit of a spoiler for the next video, but there's a verse 260 of Al-Baqarah, where Ibrahim says to Allah, Ibrahim who speaks to Allah, supposedly. Ibrahim who has witnessed Allah's powers. Allah who saved him from the fire, supposedly, according to these stories. Ibrahim says to Allah that he wants to believe, how he brings back dead animals or dead things to life again. And Allah says, like, awalam tu'min, have you not believed? And Ibrahim says, yes, but liyatma'inna qalbi, so that my heart is at ease. So if Ibrahim wanted to see evidence, wanted to see proof, again, according to the story, I don't think any of this is true, but if Ibrahim wanted to see actual proof, why didn't Allah just throw a Quran at him and say, just read this book, it's all proof? The Quran is a miracle. What do you even need? You want to see a demonstration? What for? Are you a kafir? Just read the book. So you're telling me the Prophet himself, Prophet Ibrahim, needed evidence, but we're supposed to believe that the book is evidence.
Many things which were found out to be true thousands and thousands of years later. It predicted the age of the earth, the development of an embryo.
It didn't predict any of this. In fact, the development of an embryo, how many times do we have to say this, is mistaken. It is wrong. It is copied from the Greeks, I believe, before the Muslims, and it is mistaken. They make it seem like essentially the whole point with the Quran is, how could an idiot write this? Like, that is the scientific miracles in a nutshell. How could a moron who knows nothing write this? They don't say that. They don't call Muhammad that. But essentially they say, how could an illiterate man who doesn't know anything ever write something so deep? How could he know a fact that nobody would have known in the age of darkness and lack of information? Then just say it then. Say, how could an idiot write this stuff? But Muhammad was not an idiot, and the people around him were not idiots. They were regular human beings, and people had known a lot of the things that the Quran vaguely alluded to already. And the other stuff that later Muslims look at, and scientists discover something, and the Muslims are like, aha, the Quran said this first. No, it didn't. If it did, you would have arrived at that information before the scientists discovered it. Yeah. Yal kafir, someone says. That's a great observation. I am a kafir.
And the sound of a neutron star, to name a few. And even 1400 years later, no one has been able to produce a verse even similar to the Quran.
I have a whole video on this. What does a verse similar to the Quran mean? I mean, here's a couple of verses that they're not mine. Covid wal virus al mubid. If you don't speak Arabic, you don't know what that means. But it's COVID and the virus that kills. It sounds like the Quran. Is that like it? Is that a verse like it? No, of course not. They'll just say anything is not a verse like it. So what is that even? What is that challenge even? Zaysan says, Ya kafir mut, disbeliever die. Inshallah, I won't die yet. Thank you, Abdurrahman, for the super chat. That is really kind of you. Yeah, let's keep watching.
All this from an illiterate man in the...
There we go. A literate man in the middle of the Arabian desert. Say the quiet part out loud. Say, how could an idiot know this? Just say it. I would love to hear a Muslim say it. I'm not calling Muhammad an idiot. I'm saying that's implicitly what their argument is. How could an idiot know this? But just because someone can't read or write, especially at a time where most people couldn't read or write, doesn't mean that he's an idiot or an incompetent person or, intellectually challenged. He has ears. He can speak. We're talking about a 40-year-old man who was supposedly, his wife was a merchant and he was in touch with a bunch of people. He wouldn't have heard vague things like, oh, there's a place where, two waters look like they don't meet. Like where a delta, where a river meets the ocean, it looks like it's two bodies of water that don't mix, but they are mixing actually. You're telling me he was too stupid to hear that and repeat it?
The middle of an Arabian desert in the 7th century. Judaism accepts Moses and rejects Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though they both received revelation, they both performed miracles and were both spreading monotheism. In addition, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life and miracles were far better documented.
Also, okay, wait a second. We'll get back to the video in a second. When they say, like, how could they have known this without science? How could they have known this back then? What is science? Do you think science is a divine revelation that was beamed down to us, or an alien intervention that they gave us advanced technology and we just have been replicating it in a machine since then? What is science? Who came up with science? Who came up with the scientific method? Who applies it? Who discovered things? Human beings. So Simultaneously, they say that Islam had some role to play with Islam's golden age and the advancement of science. But at the same time, those are the same ingredients, the same people, just hundreds of years earlier. So not that much of a difference, on a time scale of humanity. Those are the same people who were idiots and couldn't know anything and could not have guessed anything or scientifically, inferred anything. Which is it? Like when they say, how could they have known about the embryology, the steps of embryology, which are mistaken, by the way, but how could they have known even the vaguest description of them without science, meaning without the MRI, for example, the MRI machine or an X-ray machine or something similar? Who created the MRI machine? Allah? No, human beings created the MRI machine. So if humans were capable of creating the MRI machine and then discovering something with it, how is it so inconceivable that humans would have done a few dissections of animals or humans at the time and figured out what it vaguely looks like? How are humans simultaneously idiots, but at the same time, we are the source of science? Pick a lane. Also, Muhammad said that, in the Quran, sperm comes from between the backbone and the ribs. That is absolutely not true. It comes from down there. He said a lot of things that are inaccurate. If you were to treat every scientific mistake in the Quran as proof that Islam is not true, Islam has been disproven time and time over. But as I say many times, what has not been proven does not need to be disproven.
And more verifiable than that of Moses. So
Wait,
by this
wait,
measure,
wait.
its life and miracles. They both performed miracles and were both spreading money.
There are stories that they've performed miracles, but we, again, if we're operating from the position that we're following this video, right, we're watching this guy talk about how Einstein proved Islam. Does Einstein prove that Muhammad or Moses did miracles? No. How did we get there? Because he's talking so fast, he's like making sure that everything is taken for granted. Yeah, Muhammad and Moses did miracles. Says who? You can't just say that a book says that a guy did a miracle, therefore they did a miracle. Do you then believe what's his name? Do you believe like the Church of Latter-day Saints? Do you believe Mormons? Do you believe fuck, why am I forgetting his name? That Mormonism guy. Joseph Smith? Yeah. Do you believe that Joseph Smith did miracles? Because there are stories about him doing miracles. There are even people who say that they saw it. Do you believe in miracles now by Joseph Smith?
Theism. In addition, Muhammad Wasallam's life and miracles were far better documented and more verifiable than that of Moses.
Not a single video yet of a miracle. Not a single video. What do you mean better documented? Like people writing down things that happened, things about miracles, doesn't mean that they actually happened. Just the fact, like if you ever try to open a tafsir, especially if you speak Arabic, but even if you don't, if you somehow follow through the translations, you look at the exegesis, you look at what these scholars who lived hundreds of years after Muhammad died are saying, are trying to figure out what Muhammad meant in the Quran. And then the way that they try to understand the context is they go to the hadiths, the sayings about the Prophet. And the hadiths would have multiple versions of the same story where there are differences. And they say, well, perhaps it could have meant this, perhaps it could have meant this, perhaps it could have meant this. You're telling me that is the best way to document something? The best way to document something is to have it happen before the camera, before recordings, and then have a bunch of people have, he said, she said accounts and they disagree with each other about. That is the best way to document anything. And also, again, we're working backwards. We're comparing what already exists. We're like, well, this religion has better documentation of the Prophet than this religion, therefore this religion is more true. That's not how it works. In a vacuum, how does Einstein prove Islam to be true? How does any of this prove Islam to be true? In a vacuum. Don't keep comparing the religions and say, well, this one's better than that one. Noble Bird, thanks for the super chat. They say, my favorite series of yours was when you edited the Quran, creating better versions. Every now and then I'll try to do that. I'll make a bit of an adjustment and see if I can make the Quran a little better. And in the next video, which is going to be out on Friday, I give God tips on how to better prove the religion. So stay tuned. Smooch, thanks for the super chat. Smooch says, if sperm comes from the spine, wouldn't a vigorous twerk be needed to get it flown down to the PP? Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. we'll have to, I don't know, get our top scientists on this. Yeah, get in an MRI machine. Get this person to an MRI machine stat. Let's figure this out together.
Moses. So, but this
Amir says, "You give God tips. What an idiot." As you'll come to see, wait, why is my computer lagging so much? Allah is upset that I blaspheme, I guess. Let's close all these. I have like so many tabs open in my browser. Maybe that is the reason. I'm doing this to myself and then I'm blaming the computer. You give God tips. What an idiot. Well, when you watch the video, you'll see my tips. Like, I'm not actually giving God tips. I don't believe God exists, at least not in this way. But humorously, I'm saying if you are God and you are going to be revealing yourself, or like, you're going to be starting a religion or something, here are some mistakes that these previous God characters did that you could do better. That's what I'm saying. I don't believe I'm actually giving God tips. I'm humorously trying to illustrate the mistakes that the previous God claim has had. Yeah, does that make sense? Like, I'm not actually giving God tips. Like, if God is real, he wouldn't need a tip, which makes me question if that, God of Islam is real, if he could use a tip, because he could.
measure, it's very difficult to deny Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's prophethood if
No, it is not very difficult. Oh, if you accept Moses as
you accept Moses is a prophet, which
well, I don't know if I agree or disagree with that, but it is very easy to deny that either, or not deny, not accept that either of them is a prophet. Not even not accept. Yeah, like it's not that I refuse to accept. There isn't any evidence for me to accept that either of them were actually prophets.
which is both the case for Jews and Christians. And if you wish to see more proof, many say that he was described in the Torah as a prophet yet to come and was arguably mentioned by name. The overwhelming evidence points towards Muhammad.
It's always confusing when they're like, well, the other book, which is corrupted, except this part that I don't think is corrupted, vaguely alludes to someone coming, which is like the most common theme in religions, apparently, which actually is my guy. Like, do you believe in the Torah or not? Make up your mind. Is the Torah corrupted or is it not? You can't use it to prove your religion without actually accepting that it is valid.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being a prophet, and the one true religion being Islam.
So do you guys think that Einstein proved that Islam is true? I don't quite think so, but maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's something I missed. I think it's the epistemology that was what bothers me the most, is how do you know what you know? And when it comes to Islam, you would never apply these methods to any other situation. Like, imagine if I went in front of a judge. I always like this analogy. I go in front of a judge and I try to prove my case in the same way that Muslim apologists try to prove Islam. How would that even work? I would say, well, how do I prove that this land is mine? Well, I would prove it to you. I would show you the deed, but you wouldn't believe me anyway. Muhammad said that. I'd show you, but you wouldn't believe me anyway. I showed it to another judge in a different county, and he didn't believe me or she didn't believe me. Therefore, I'm not going to show it to you. Muhammad said that too. What else? Well, I am so well spoken, and this stuff that I'm saying is so amazing that I must be telling the truth about the land belonging to me. That's essentially the case that Islam is making. If you don't rule in my favor, I will torture you and your family forever. Also, what Islam says to make a case for itself. It is laughable to think of applying this stuff in the courtroom. Why do we have a more rigorous standard for a courtroom than we do for proving Islam? I don't know. Let's see what else. We can watch another video. We can continue reading the comments. I think I'm going to keep this live stream. I'm a bit more rambly today, but it's fine. We'll keep it. God doesn't need worship. We need it. So how do I put this? What's a good analogy for this? It's just funny when people say that. So if God doesn't need worship, why does he care so much that he gets it, or else he will throw a tantrum about it and like torture us forever? Does that seem like the behavior of someone who doesn't need something? Like if I go and, say I want to buy a Tesla for whatever reason, I go to a Tesla dealership and I say I want this one. They say, well, this is the last one in that color, and I throw a tantrum like, if you don't give me that, I will do this and that, and I will talk to Elon myself, and I will do this and I will do that. Does that not seem like I need the car? Which is it? If I don't need it, I can walk away from the transaction and say, oh, okay, you don't want to sell it to me? That's fine. I'm okay. I could deal with that. But if I throw a tantrum about it, then clearly I need it more than I care to admit. You are getting emotional here. Allah is getting emotional here. I like Rambly Aladdin, big fan. I'm glad that you're here for it. Exan says, who created you? Who created you? This question is already loaded. Who implies that there is someone who created me. So what you're asking is essentially, what is the source of life? How did life begin? Or maybe you're even implying in that question, why did life begin? Because someone creating you usually implies that it's a God, and that God wants worship, and so on and so forth. But a better question would be, how did life begin? That's a good question. I don't know. And if you join me and in this pursuit, maybe we'll find out together, but we'll likely die not finding out the truth, unfortunately, or if there is a truth that we can reach. T-Rex, thanks for the super chat. In the words of Homer Simpson, God is all powerful, but he's also very insecure. Bilal says, would you make a video on prophecies like Arabia becoming green, Romans losing, tall buildings, etc.? I don't think you addressed this point that much. I haven't yet, and I sort of I really hate the prophecies BS because it's so slippery. It's like trying to argue with someone who's not gonna be consistent and is not actually interested in arguing with you. Like for every one of these that I disprove, I am playing the same game that they want me to play. If any of these vague prophecies, open-ended vague prophecies, does not come true, well, the believer's fine because it hasn't come true yet, because there's no deadline. If there's no way for them to lose, like no matter how many prophecies you go through, there's always going to be, well, it hasn't happened yet. So my question is usually, why do we have this, shotgun approach of proof? If you want to prove something to me, give me proof straight up. Say this one thing on its own has always proved Islam and will always prove Islam. Not this one thing at the time of the Prophet was a vague thing, and then 1,000 years later could apply as a prophecy that maybe if you look at like 5 of these together, you might be compelled to believe in Islam. No. Just give me one thing. How does this thing prove Islam? Prophecies is a game of whack-a-mole. So I don't like it at all. So my question would be, back then, what proved Islam? Before all these prophecies allegedly came true, if I was sitting in front of Muhammad, what would prove Islam? Would he say like, well, someday, go to Dubai and you'll see that the buildings are very tall and that's going to prove Islam? No, that's not how that works. So it was useless back then. Let's ignore it. Let's pretend like Muhammad is right in front of us, or he just died, a week ago. What proves Islam? What else? You and I, yeah, fasiq. You and I, yeah, fasiq means you spoiled person, you rotten person, or something like that. I don't remember what fasiq means exactly, but it's not a nice word. You and I will meet on the day of judgment, and what will you say that day? Yeah, also got that question a lot. I wouldn't need to say much because if all that stuff is real, then God knows what I'm thinking. But what I'm thinking is, okay, it is real. Now explain to me how all of that made sense. Why did you make it look so suspicious, Allah? But I wouldn't be like, even if I managed to get things right and, I'm going to heaven, I don't think it'll ever cross my mind that, all those disbelievers, even people that I don't like among them, I am looking forward to seeing them going to hell. Like, we'll see who's right on the day of judgment. Why can't we just see who's right now? I mentioned this earlier. Someone threw this flyer in my mailbox, I think, and it's like Christian fear porn, essentially. Like, well, what will you do when you meet your Lord? Kind of stuff. It's the same thing that the Muslims are doing. Same thing. So why are these religions, instead of proving the truth, they're just threatening? Yeah. What is next? Well, we could watch people have been asking for the video of the gecko. Let's see if I can find it. Someone find me that video, please, because I cannot find it right now. Well, we already watched how Einstein proved Islam true. Super chat. Where is the super chat? I'll try to read it. So bright green. Tengri, thank you so much for the super chat. Tengri says, why do Muslims so often accuse non-believers of getting emotional during conversations? Do they think emotions are the opposite of rationality? Good question. I think it's a discrediting tactic. Is my camera stuck? Okay, now it's getting better. It's a discrediting tactic. It's essentially saying, why are you being so hysterical? Why are you being so emotional? You can't think clearly, unlike me, a calm, rational, intelligent man. It's ironic because, again, religion preys on emotions, preys on people's vulnerabilities, and uses emotions to threaten them with a lot of the times. Open any page of the Quran right now, and you'll find something about hell. So let's see. First page I'm looking at. This is Surah Al-Kahf. Let's see. It's the one about the sleepers of the cave, where Muhammad fails to actually address the challenge. Okay. Beginning of Surah Al-Kahf. Alhamdulillah alladhi anzala ala abdihi al-kitaba wa lam yaj'al lahu 'iwaja qayyiman liyunzira ba'san shadidan min ladunhu wa yubashshira al-mu'minina alladhina blah blah blah. So he's talking about the ba'san shadida. So warning about the torture that will come in the afterlife. Why is God using emotions? Why is God being emotional? Yeah, essentially what they're trying to say is, you're too emotional, so I'm not going to listen to you, and I just operate on rationality, and that's not true. There's nothing wrong with emotions. Kafir says, do you ever get bored or burnt out talking about Islam? All the time. And that is why sometimes it takes me a month to make a video, because I don't want to just phone it in and be like, here's a bunch of things that are wrong in Islam or that are bad in Islam, because there's plenty of them, but that's really boring. So I try to make it more creative. I try to make it more engaging, more funny sometimes. So it takes me a bit longer. But yeah, the topic does get kind of boring, but I feel like I want to help people, and that's why I do it. But personally, as long as Islam doesn't affect my life, I'm fine. But unfortunately, it still does affect my life to some extent. Not as much as other people's lives, but it still does. If Islam and Muslims don't negatively affect my life, I don't care to think about the topic anymore. Yeah, see, that's what I was saying. You know what? Allah needs to be rational. Allah should not bring emotions into any of this. Bustofer says, is it true that in Islam you can see people burning in hell when in Jannah, and this will actually make people up there more grateful? Yeah, there's a verse about how believers will be sitting on their raised couches laughing at the disbelievers burning in hell. So yeah. If you don't want to phone it in, have you considered writing an email or a letter instead? You can even FaceTime Islam. Yeah. MJ says, why don't you do debates often? I think debates are more about a performance for the crowd. And if I start doing debates, I invite a lot more vicious of a audience, which will affect the climate in my channel in general. So now if you scroll under one of my videos, usually you'll find, some supportive comments or comments of people, engaging with each other, or maybe even someone disagreeing with me or something, and there's a conversation happening underneath that. But if I start engaging with debate channels and debate people, then all their audience would, come to my comment section, especially larger channels, and take over. And it would just be, all the comments would be like, "Ah, you stupid so and so," and then the opposition would be like, "No, you're stupid so and so." So I don't want to invite that climate to the channel. And like I said, it's usually a performance for the audience rather than actually engaging with the other person in front of you. So I'm still looking for people to have interesting conversations with, but haven't really come across that many. Or the ones that I've reached out to, there are some who haven't answered. Yeah. Yeah, Muslim eviscerates dumb atheist. That's it. And then, I would try really hard to explain my point only for something to be clipped, and that's it. Like, I've seen how people engaged with debates before in the debate scene, and how poorly it went, even when they had all the all the points, so to speak. Even what's his name, when Alex O'Connor, when he had a debate with Mohammed Hijab a long time ago, Mohammed Hijab did every dirty tactic he could think of to sort of suppress the parts of the debate that did not look good for him, and tried to intimidate Alex. And then, the audience was also very intimidating and hostile, to the point that Alex was like, "Screw this, I'm not going to do that anymore." So Alex is clearly, well read and well spoken, and he can manage himself well in the debate. So he didn't, mismanage that debate, yet it still wasn't a productive outcome. So why would I put myself through that? Amina says, "I don't understand. If Muslims in Jannah can ask for anything and Allah will grant it, what if a Muslim in Jannah asks that everyone in hell should stop being tortured? Would Allah just stop it?" That is a good question. No, Allah would not, unfortunately. Even I think there's a ruling in Islam that you cannot pray for forgiveness even while you're alive for a dead non-Muslim or something. And supposedly, even if you have relatives or family members or friends or loved ones in hell, somehow you're not going to be depressed about it. You're just going to move on. And it's almost like we're going to be in some sort of robotic state in heaven, where evil doesn't happen, but we have free will. So it's not clear how that is possible. Bloody Mary says, "I just engaged in a debate with my parents, trying to show them why Islam's ruling against LGBT people are so cruel. My dad proudly claimed to being selfish and not caring about what happens to them." Yeah, unfortunately, that's how it tends to be. It's again, it's one of those very silly ideas that God created people a certain way, and then he gets upset about it, or that he expects them to, like, not pursue love or relationships, and then they'll get rewarded in heaven by being fixed, and then they can have a robotic heaven partner, I guess. It makes no sense whatsoever. AB says, "What do you think about the rise of secret marriages? The so-called scholars and Qadi facilitating this type of nikah without the wali and fake witnesses on an online call. What do I think about it? I'm not that in touch with that scene, to be honest, but I would assume it's because people want to get married, in the sense that people want to have relationships and have sex. And if they can't do it the traditional way because the parents are too demanding, or or it's too expensive to get married, then maybe they'll do it in secret. But also, there's a lot of cheating and, like, second wives going on. So I don't know, with the case of Muhammad Hijab going on right now. I didn't comment much on it, but it seems to be kind of a recurring theme nowadays, unfortunately. Why is my camera not? Let's try this again. It's very choppy for some reason. I need an upgrade. My computer is not doing very well. So if you want to help me upgrade my computer, links are in the description. But I'm fine. I'll get a computer someday. I want to find that video for the lizard. Why the lizard is so hated in Islam, or the gecko. So I'm just gonna search on YouTube, "why gecko Islam." Okay, There we go. It is Zakir Naik's video. Okay. Can you guys see this? Yes. Okay, so a little bit of context here. Oh, sorry, it wasn't on screen.
Reason, is it justified to kill any home lizards?
My bad. Were you guys able to hear what was going on? Okay, let's watch it again.
I'm confused if that is the reason. Is an act to earn country Bangladesh. Sir, I wanted to know about hadith where Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said killing house lizard is an act to earn sawab. When I searched the reason, I learned that it was because house lizards help igniting the fire where Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown.
Okay, because it's kind of hard to understand what he's saying for some of you out there. Essentially, Muhammad said that you get brownie points if you kill a lizard or a gecko. And the reason some people think, I don't know, he'll talk about it a little bit. The reason maybe because according to the myth, according to the story, when Abraham was thrown in a fire because he was being a little troll and destroyed people's idols, the gecko was blowing on the fire to make it bigger or something to that effect. And again, it shows how simplistic and laughable religious stories can be. So let's even say that for some reason, geckos used to talk and animate and do stuff back then. How are the actions of this one gecko in this one story enough reason for Muslims all over the world to kill geckos of a bunch of different species that are not the same gecko? It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard sometimes, I swear.
I'm confused if that is the reason. Is it justified to kill any home lizards? Considering the house lizards have free will in this dunya, then being rewarded after killing any house lizards seems unjust. Because every house lizard was not involved with the incident of Hazrat.
Honestly, I never expected that to come up because house lizards have free will. Do house lizards have free will?
Ibrahim alayhi salam. And if they don't have free will, rather they acted on Allah's commandment, that would be unjust too. Or is there actually other reasons stated in Hadith or Quran for killing them? For example, the harmful effects. Of course, Allah and His Rasul know best.
Okay, I don't mean to make fun of the person asking the question. Like they're operating within the, what they know and what they've been indoctrinated with. It's a good question. If what is the lizard's fault is the question, essentially.
What the brother is referring to, the various hadith in which the Prophet, peace be upon him, did say that you can kill house lizard. Arabic, the word is wazak. In English, it is gecko. There's hadith, various hadith. I'll just quote to you three hadiths, which will inshallah clarify your question. There's hadith in Sahih Muslim, hadith number 5844.
I don't care what it is, just say it. He's really like stringing us along. Just talk.
In Sahih Muslim, word number 6, hadith number 5844, where the beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, said that he enjoined the killing of wazak, gecko, because they are phoific. That means they are venomous. They are venom. They are harmful. They are poisonous. A similar hadith of the same topic.
I don't think they are. At least the ones that I was told to kill when I was a kid are not venomous.
Is in Sahih Muslim, word number 6, hadith number 5447. And here, beloved Prophet Muhammad said that if you kill a wasakh or a gecko or a house lizard, in the first blow, you'll get 100 hasanat.
It's like when you play a video game and you get a combo, or a bonus for getting a headshot.
If you kill...
I don't mean to laugh about, lizards being killed. I don't mean to be insensitive about it. It's just funny that, okay, maybe there's some logic there is that to lower the suffering of the gecko, at least you're killing it quickly. But yeah, you get 100 points. That's just funny. I'm imagining the sound effect in your head of like, bing, because you got 100 points.
In the second blow, you'll get less hasanat. If you kill in the third blow, then lesser asnaf.
Stop drinking and start answering, please. I'm bored already.
So this was mentioned in Sahih Muslim, volume number 6, hadith number 5847. So here we come to know from this hadith that the reason that the Prophet has commanded us to kill a house lizard is because it is fawasic, that is, it is venomous. It is
Didn't he already say that?
a venom, and it has harmful effect. So the main reason is given in this hadith, and that is the reason Allah said you will get hasna. But there's one more hadith which is there in Sahih Bukhari. Our beloved Prophet said in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 4, hadith number 3359, that he said,
This could have been an email. Get to the point.
that kill the house lizard, and this same house lizard used to blow in the fire where Ibrahim alayhi salam was.
Okay, so I'm done with this stupid video. So it's essentially what the person asking the question was saying, that the gecko used to blow on the fire that, you know, Ibrahim was being tortured with, or be tortured with. This is the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. Yeah. I don't know. Wait, what's going on here? Let me read this comment. My computer's really bugging, guys. If this is not looking good on the other side, I'll try to fix it before the next stream. This comment is asking, Super Hydra saying, how do you feel about Harris Sultan dog whistling to bring back black subjugation for South Africa? What the fuck? Sorry, what? I'm not I mean, I am surprised, but also not. What do you expect? Like, I'm sorry, but what did Harris actually say that? Okay, chat, is that true? Could someone please fact check that for me? Because I have obviously not been keeping up with this channel, but is he really dog whistling apartheid again? Oh boy. Man, it's embarrassing. Like, I understand, you know, ex-Muslims are not a monolith, and like we can't feel like one guy's actions represent all of us and so on. But why are so many of them like have these dumb-ass opinions? I think it's because once you've been talking about a topic for a few years, it kind of run out of the obvious things to say. You know, like, yeah, you know, Islam is bad, and like there are things that are harmful in Islam, and like marrying children is bad, and like beating your wife is bad. Yeah, we all agree on that. And then they run out of stuff to say, and that's when they have to improvise and come up with new interesting things, and then the idiocy begins. Damn, if he actually said that, then what do I think about it? I think it's stupid. Yeah. Someone please fact check that for me. Did he actually say apologetics for the apartheid in South Africa? Why am I doing this to myself? I'm looking it up. Okay. Trump deports more anti-Semitic students. Really? Like that's the summary of what Trump is doing? Well, okay. Let's just let's look at this together, because why the heck not? So this I'm just looking. I haven't seen this channel in a while. Trump deports more anti-Semitic students. Trump has been deporting people left and right, and illegally, unlawfully, including people who are citizens and people who have green cards and everything. But no, the real scoop here is that Trump deported anti-Semitic students. You know, citation needed that they are anti-Semitic. The sycophantic nature of these people with Trump is very difficult to understand. Why is he simping for Trump? I don't understand that. like the guy who's senile and is like, I don't know if you guys saw this clip earlier today of Trump's what was it, an interview with some reporter, and he genuinely thought that the graphics on a screenshot were tattooed on a man's hand. Like, Trump is a senile old man, but somehow, yeah, let's hail him as a hero. What else? I don't see the South Africa apologetics stuff, so please tell me if you see it. Yeah, no, let's move on. It was on his Twitter feed, apparently. He uploaded a video of a messy street in South Africa and said something along the lines of, "This is what happened after removing white privilege from your country." Fuck off. Yeah, like I said, sometimes there is a point where people run out of interesting things to say or true things to say, and then they just have controversial opinions for the sake of having controversial opinions. Or maybe he's genuinely that stupid. I don't know. What I know is when I pressed him on something he was saying, and simping for a guy who would call him slurs for being brown, he just called me a beta male. I can't take anyone seriously who says that stuff unironically. Yeah, it's very hard, unfortunately. Like, here's the sitch. It's very hard to be an advocate for ex-Muslims or to criticize Islam or like do this kind of work for very long, because as mentioned earlier, you kind of burn out eventually because you already know this stuff. Nothing surprises you anymore. You personally don't, your beliefs have been dealt with, have been deconstructed. You move on with your life and you kind of don't want to hear the mention of it anymore. And sometimes that is compounded with a lot of hate that you receive. So for some people to keep doing what they're doing because they don't have any other way to live, because that they don't have another viable career path, you just got to find ways to find an animated audience that you can keep, entertaining and talking to, and so that they could support you. My opinion is, if you get to a point where the work is too depressing, or it's too boring, it's unfulfilling, you have no new insight, just step away. You don't have to just keep making content just to keep making content. But eventually, we get to that point. And if I ever get to that point, please unsubscribe from my channel. Shiitake says, how many white shirts do you own? Somewhere around 5 or 6. And I only wear them for the channel, essentially. So you'll never see me in a white shirt outside. If you see me in a white shirt, no, you didn't. Does this man think he's white? Yeah, I unfortunately, some people lose sight of the fact that, being one of the good brown people to racist doesn't mean that you will be taken in as a white person. Like, that's, there's more to things than just race, but I find it funny when someone forgets that they will be discriminated against by the people that they're being a convenient, poster child for. Will I also leave one day? Yeah, someday I will. Which is why I'm trying to think of ways to change what I'm doing a bit. So the video that's coming on Friday, I think will include a bit more humor. I think, I had fun writing it, so maybe I'll do a bit more of that where I incorporate humor, but I also can't force it where every video is supposed to be funny. I'm getting a bit drained sometimes of, talking to people for long hours and listening to tiring stories, but I'm finding ways to cope with that. I'm trying to pivot more to, in my career as well, to do something to help people in a similar way. I don't think I'll be making videos forever, but I still have a long way to go, I think. But if I find myself demotivated and tired, I will not pivot to making stupid content, or I'm, unapologetically, what is it? What is the word even? Like being hailing Trump as my prophet or something like that. will I ever make more animations? Maybe. It takes a lot of effort for me to coordinate with an artist and, and also pay them and make sure that it's worth their time. So I'll try, but it takes a long time. There might be another video, another animated video soon. Jeff says, are you afraid of running out of ideas or things to say at some point? No, I still have, from the moment I started, I had these like voice recordings of ideas, and I had a list of video ideas that is endless. And every week I have more. It's just that at some point it gets boring, like it's when I, hang up my hat, take off my mask and go about my life, I still see reminders of Islam, and it's exhausting. Like, I don't want Islam in my life at all, but it does follow me everywhere I go. And that motivates me to, keep helping all the people who are affected by Islam. But to some extent, I have dealt with a lot of the issues that I've had because of my beliefs, and I'm limiting the impact that the religion has on my life. So personally, selfishly, I'm bored of the topic, and I don't have as much energy to learn new information about the topic. But there is a lot more work to be done still. So I'm trying to find more interesting ways of doing that work. If Ethiopic says, you have what I call brown morted syndrome. What does that mean? I know it's derogatory, but I'm trying to figure out what that means. Nick says, when are you debating AP or David Wood? About what? Whether Christianity is true or not? That would not be worth a debate, because if they could prove it true, then they would prove it true. But they can't, and they haven't. So yeah, I don't know what you want me to debate them about. Bloody Mary says, let's talk about something else then, since you're tired. Do you like anime? Not quite, but I did pick up a habit of, well, not a habit, a hobby recently of collecting and painting die-cast model cars. You might see some of them in the background here. Barely. I just put up this display recently, but it's a bit out of focus. Maybe I'll post more about it in my, like, in the Discord or something. I might do a private stream, because I recently got some equipment to like customize these things. So I'll do a live stream, maybe on Twitch, maybe on YouTube, where I'm just talking and doing this hobby stuff, and we'll see where it goes from there. I don't think I want to do content for a living, like, just in general. So it's not that I wanted to be a YouTuber and Islam was a topic that I found interesting and therefore I chose it. I think I am doing YouTube because it's the best medium to do this work. So when I stop making content about Islam, I think I'll stop making content altogether. Abad says, how do you keep your plants so lush and vibrant? Well, thank you. I'm glad they look that way. They're actually, some of them are struggling a little bit, and I don't know why. I try to water them often enough. I keep an eye on them. I put, fertilizer. I change the soil every year or two. I repot them. So I try my best. Sometimes, unfortunately, still the, parasites get to them or something or another happens, but there's plenty of them. So it always looks green enough. Take off the face mask, Aladdin. I wish I could. I wish I lived in a world where I could. Homo sapiens says, tell us more about your hobbies. So that's one of them. And again, I might start streaming that a little bit. So I'll show you what I mean. I used to be hugely into bikes, not motorbikes, bicycles. And yeah, like I know quite a bit about bikes, and I do have several bikes, and I haven't been riding them very much. So I'll get back to that soon. So I'm into that. I used to be into tech more. Now I just want things to work. I don't want to mess with stuff anymore. I just, I don't want the new tech. I just want things that work. I'm even upset that I'll have to buy a new computer at some point, because in my mind, I bought it in 2020 and I thought, okay, I still have a new computer. It's been 5 years. So I need to get another one. So yeah, tech is also one of my hobbies. Thank you, Rosier. I'm glad that you liked my content. Have I ever watched Alex O'Connor? I used to back in the day when I was still questioning. Yeah. KK says, consider a humidifier. I do have one. I just have been prioritizing putting it somewhere else, not in this same room. So, yeah. But the weather's changing, so I might not need a humidifier soon enough. Football of Guru says, you could talk about other things like Sharif. I don't think my opinion matters all that much in general. So I don't know if I want to talk about things in general. I don't feel qualified to talk about most things. I mean, sure, I could talk about bikes and tech and stuff, but I don't think it's so important that people should listen to it. I don't have that desire to share it with the world all the time. I mostly do this stuff because it's not say this stuff, dismiss it. I'm trying to find the words. I mostly do the work on this channel because it's important and it's necessary. But as a person, I'm not usually very opinionated and loud, so I don't think I'd make content about other things. Admir says, I feel you are still secretly Muslim. Why do people keep saying that? And this is coming from a Muslim too. Why do you think that I'm secretly still a Muslim? I'm very curious to know what that means. Thank you, Aman Ra, for the super chat. What are the YouTube channels that you watch the most? Do you discuss Islam with your Muslim loved ones? I'll answer the second one first. Do I discuss Islam with my Muslim loved ones? No, unless they bring it up to me and they know that I don't believe. So I prefer not to, because there's, they're not going to budge in any way, and they get upset when they realize how blasphemous my thoughts and opinions are. Even though, like, I'm not trying to piss them off, it's just that they wouldn't even want me to say that the prophet could possibly not be a prophet. So I avoid that, or like, I don't start those conversations. They don't happen often. And what are the YouTube channels that I watch the most? Well, that's a good question. I watch a lot of car content because I'm into cars. And what else? I watch stuff related to the hobbies that I'm interested in at the moment. I watch aviation stuff because I'm into airplanes too. One time I flew an airplane. I didn't take off, but a friend surprised me. He was studying to become a pilot, to get his pilot's license, and I thought that I was just driving him to the airport so that he can, do one of his flights. And then he surprised me with a flight that he got for me. So I was sitting next to the instructor, and he took off and landed, but I controlled the plane in the air. It was amazing. It was the best feeling ever. And I would love to fly again. So yeah, I watch a lot of stuff about aviation on YouTube. And every now and then I'll watch some, I don't know, true crime stuff, but then it gets me anxious, and then I start texting my loved ones like, hey, make sure that you're, aware of your surroundings and don't wear earphones outside and stuff, and start to get paranoid. So don't watch too much of that. Let's see. Aladdin is a true crime girly sometimes, but it's good to be aware of how these things happen so you avoid them happening, but it's also not good to be paranoid about them all the time. And that's how it is for me. Naqib says, Aladdin depicts the prophet and Muslims say, I feel like you're still Muslim. Yeah, Fajr, I hope I get your place in Jannah. I hope you're not angry or upset about that. Is there allocated seating? Are there limited seats? Are the tickets transferable? I'll give you my place in Jannah. It sounds like a weird place to be, and I'd rather not go there. 224 Tilt Head says, am I reading Tilt Heend? Something like that. I'm not reading that right. What is your approach towards death and making meaning out of life? Two different questions. My approach towards death, slow and steady, hopefully. I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it. Death is inevitable. sometimes it crosses my mind that any day could be my last day. And it used to be that would make me anxious, that I would think I'm not ready to meet God and be judged and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, like this anxiety stuff that religion puts in you. And now I don't want to die, but it crossed my mind, if I died right now, or I get hit by a bus or something, as far as I know, it's going to be lights out, just like it was before I was alive, just like, I assume what a coma feels like. I don't know. So there's nothing for me to worry about, but it still crosses my mind, like the people that love me would be, sad that I'm gone and so on. But at the same time, it kind of contextualizes the worries that I have. Like, if I were to die right now, would it really matter that, for example, that there's a bit more cat hair in my place than I would like there to be? Like, I need to vacuum a little bit more often than I already do, and I stress out about that. But if I die right now, would that matter? No. So I shouldn't be stressing out about that. So this feeling of like there's nothing after death, instead of it being so scary and foreboding, or like that there's not going to be a heaven and all that kind of stuff, it's more like live in the moment, because you never know when it's going to be over. And in terms of making meaning out of life, find something that you think is worth living for and do it. Or another way to think about it is, it really depends, because for some people, meaning is just enjoyment. For some, it is utility, like they have to be useful to be meaningful. For some, it is devotion to a cause, or to a way of life, or to an idea. So you find what works for you and make sure it's not harming you or other people. For me, it seems to be that the meaning of my life is trying to do something to better my life and other people's lives. So I hope you find meaning, if you haven't already, all of you. It's about time to wrap up the live stream soon. Yeah, make your own meaning. What should I even title, or what thumbnail should I put for this live stream afterwards? Because I didn't prepare one. How would you summarize all of what we talked about? Man, if I had someone to like make my thumbnails and do my titles and post my videos and edit them, essentially, if I had someone doing my job, that would be so great. Yeah, just let me focus on the writing and the delivery, and then someone could do everything else. Yeah, I always get questions about thoughts about AP joining Christianity. I talked about it a little bit before, but again, the thing that I always get excited about, when someone who seemingly left a religion for reasons that they thought through joins another religion, what I get excited about is, okay, are they going to do a guide? Are they going to make a guide? Are they going to tell us how they went from this to that? Are they going to show us how the new religion survives the scrutiny of the old religion? And I'm probably going to be disappointed, because I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Thank you, Melissa. I'm glad that you're here. I'm happy to do them. Like I said, stay tuned, because this weekend I'll be doing, if all goes well, I'll be doing a live stream with Genetically Modified Skeptic, and that should be a lot of fun. Yeah. What should I? Aladdin becomes a car YouTuber. Oh, people are trying to suggest titles here. Rambling of a Closeted Muslim. The Meaning of Life and Islam's Hate of Lizards. Aladdin's Bike Show. Fire-Breathing Lizard. Hanging Out with Al. These are all great titles. Yapadeen. What else? Am I missing any? No, we're good. Gecko Praise. Yes. Do I play video games? I do not, because for me, it is a time sink, and I would not stop playing them. So thankfully, my computer does not play video games. I have an old Xbox One S, I think, that doesn't play them super well, but I don't have them. So no, I unfortunately do not play video games, but video games are cool. Just make sure that you're doing other stuff too. Thank you, Ali, for gifting a membership. That's so kind of you. All right, I'll take one last question. To be fair, the price of Jannah is La ilaha illallah. Yeah, if only I could actually believe that, though, that there is no God but Allah. I could, I could believe half of that, maybe. There is no God. What else? Is 2 + 2 = 4? Confidently, I could say yes. There we go. That's a good place to end. Ending on a fact. Sara, thank you for the super chat. It says, recently discovered your channels. Thanks for the videos. I appreciate it. This was a lot less streamlined of a live stream than usual. If you're here for the first time, thank you for being here. Usually I have a purpose for the live stream and a video that we're dissecting or conversations that we're having or something. This one's a bit all over the place. I just felt like I owed it to you guys to do a live stream because I haven't done one in 2 weeks. And people keep asking, when's the next video? When's the next live stream? I promise I'm working on it. It is coming. I just work in bursts of inspiration. It's almost like revelation, divine revelation, where sometimes I struggle to write the video that I want to write, and then sometimes I'm writing it for 8 hours straight. So I'm in that zone right now. So after this live stream, I'm gonna go get dinner, and then I will keep editing. So I'll see you guys Friday, Saturday, sometime soon. Thank you for being here again, and special thanks to the patrons, YouTube members, everyone who's supported me, the Discord members, part of the community. If you want to join the community, links are in the description below. Thank you all. And as always, think critically and think for yourself, and consider watching one of these videos next. Bye-bye.